seminar, How to Achieve a More Company-Oriented Logistic Academic Education with Kuehne Foundation, Kuehne Economic,
and held by Laboratory of Binus Management, Binus Business School, and Binus Online Learning. Okay. Kok sepi sih? Kok sepi sih? Baby, before we start our seminar, let us introduce ourselves. My name is and my partner,
Lorinta. We will guide you from the beginning until the event done.
Baby, do you know what is seminar today?
I think it's all about logistics.
Who's know about seminar today? Binus ya?
Who does know about today's seminar? You know?
Ada yang tahu?
Yes, you're the speaker, sir.
Ada yang tahu nggak Binus yang di sini?
But before that, maybe we will say thank you for.
We will say thank you for the Kuehne Foundation, Kuehne Economic, Laboratory of Binus Management, Binus Business School, Binus Online Learning, our awesome speaker, Binus yang lecturer, and Binus Online Learning student. Okay, Debbie, no need to linger. It's better that we introduce our awesome speaker, right? Do you know who are they?
The first one is?
The first one is Dr. Kreie, is the Director of Global Logistics Education Program with the Kuehne Foundation, based in Zurich, Switzerland. And he's also worked as Vice Dean at the German Academy for Foreign Trade and Logistics, DAV, in Berlin. And the second speaker?
The second speaker is Mr. Sven Gunnar Peterson, is Head of Advanced Vocational Education with the German Foreign Trade and Logistics Academy, or DAV, in Bremen, Germany. He was trained as forwarding agent in an internationally operating logistics company and spent more than 10 years of his professional career in Southeast Asia, working for global logistics providers in marketing and sales, as well as air and ocean freight. And then the third speaker is Mr. Rinaldi Idrus. He is General Manager Human Resources at Kuehne in Greater Jakarta area, Indonesia.
So, let us invite our speaker to the stage for Mr. Andre, Mr. Swan, and Mr. Rinaldi.
Please give applause for our awesome speakers.
Okay, so you saw a little bit of confusion there. So very good afternoon, I hope everybody can hear me. As mentioned before, my name is Dr. Andre. I work for the Kuehne Foundation. I'm the Director of Global Logistics Education. And obviously I do not speak Bahasa Indonesia, so that is obvious. So I hope everybody can understand my English and that hopefully you also will answer or at least ask some questions in English, so when we do have the Q&A session later on. A couple of words about the Kuehne Foundation. So the Kuehne Foundation possibly is most likely unknown to anybody here. So if you haven't Googled it, most likely you don't have ever heard about the Kuehne Foundation, but possibly you have ever heard about Kuehne. If you have not heard about Kuehne, you may have indirectly been in contact with Kuehne, because Kuehne as a local office here is part of the Global Logistics Corporation that is one of the leading global logistics organizations worldwide. So that means at the moment we have about 70,000 employees, possibly even a little bit more. We're going to turn over 20 billion US dollars, so it's not necessarily a small organization. And even though we are a public company, so we're stock listed in Switzerland, the headquarters in Europe, Switzerland, we have basically a single shareholder that keeps basically the majority of the shares. and that is Mr. Kuehne. So that is where we got our name from. Mr. Kuehne turned now 82 years, so he's quite a mature man. He's married, which is not a bad thing, I think. However, he doesn't have any children. There's 0 kids, there's no sibling, nothing whatsoever. Mr. Kuehne is also a very rich man. So he's one of the kind of very rich guys in Europe. And some 40 years ago, they founded the Kuehne Foundation. So we are basically associated with the logistics company Kuehne, and we have a very kind of simple share of our work. Kuehne is a commercial part. They have to earn the money, and I am, as part of this foundation, in a good position to spend the money. So this is very simple. With Kuehne Foundation, we are neutral to the business. So Mr. Kuehne said, I want to strengthen the logistics and supply chain sector. Yeah, so the business in logistics and supply chain management. So he wants to give something back to the industry where he earned a fortune. We will be in the very, possibly not in the very near future, but in the future, the Kuehne Foundation will be the largest private foundation in entire Europe. So we do have quite a bit of money to spend, and so we want to give something back to the logistics industry. And we have a very kind of simple to the industry where he earned a fortune. We will be in the very, possibly not in the very near future, but in the future, the Kuehne Foundation will be the largest private foundation in entire Europe. So we do have quite a bit of money to spend, and so we want to give something back to the logistics industry. When you look into our global focus, so when you look into our work, what we do have our own university, so that's the Kuehne Logistics University, currently in Hamburg. It's a very young university, it's only 10 years old, and what we see here now is possibly, 250 students, 200 students possibly. I learned that you have 16,000 students in the business department, something in that area, right? So the entire Kuehne Logistics University has around 400 to 500 students. So it is more like a boutique-like university, but it's also a unit that deals with humanitarian logistics. So they look into humanitarian organizations and basically help them to become more efficient if you do have an earthquake, if you do have a drought or something, if you do have a flooding. As you possibly have already studied a bit of supply chain management or about to have a module in supply chain management, when you look into logistics cost, at a global average, we're going to have between 8 and 12% of the total cost is related to transportation and logistics. That is in the commercial sector. When we talk about humanitarian, that goes up to 60 to 80%. So whenever you donate $1 US for humanitarian purposes, you're going to have to spend 60 to 80 cents for just transportation and logistics activities. That is far too high, and our colleagues in that department try to bring down that cost. And then we have the final area, which is education. And so this is what I'm responsible for. So when we talk about education, our job is to support universities establishing logistics degree courses. And so this is why we're here in Asia. So we have been doing it now in Africa for a couple of years, also in Central Asia, but not so much in Southeast Asia. So the idea is that here in, let's say, here in Indonesia, in Singapore not so much, but Malaysia, Philippines, and possibly the neighboring countries, we try to collaborate with universities and establish logistics degree courses, and possibly where already something is existing, try to improve the quality of the delivered, let's say, modules or minors. So the idea is that in every kind of country in Southeast Asia, that we have universities at a high quality level deliver logistics and supply chain management education. That is basically my role. As a bit of a teaser, so we have been collaborating with Econeat. Econeat is the Indonesian German Chamber of Commerce, and they obviously made a contact with your university here today. And so I also brought my colleague Gunnar with us, as well as our colleague from Kuehne here from the local office in Indonesia. And the idea is to give you a little bit of a two-sided idea of what logistics and supply chain management can be. So on the one hand, we have Gunnar talking about the latest technologies we have, and then we possibly have a little bit of an insight, a practical insight, from our colleague from Kuehne, what the chances might be, what opportunities are, what the job profile might be with a logistics company here in Indonesia. So this is possibly a little bit about the background, what we do, why the Kuehne Foundation is here, why you are here possibly, and I think I don't want to spare too much time, so I think best is now to hand over to Gunnar and start a little bit with the lecture. Gunnar?
Selamat siang, apa kabar? My name is Gunnar, and I'm very, very happy to be here this afternoon talking to all of you guys, trying to find a way to make you understand logistics and the future of logistics, how we see it, and just make you, well, hot for logistics and supply chain. Good. When you're looking at the world today, all of you, you're running around, moving about, being very, very active with mobile phones and smartphones, laptops and things like that. You're always in motion, you're always moving. And every day you have to ask yourself, do I go back or do I go forward? Now, if you apply this to logistics, then you will have to understand that over the decades past gone by, logistics has developed substantially and is essentially a major part of how we conduct our business today. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is going to be a little bit of a vision how we in Germany as a BAV, which is part of the German Logistics Association, how we see the future of logistics is going to look like. Right? So, welcome to the digital age. There's going to be a lot of digitalization about what I'm talking about. Right? Now, where do we come from? Today we are talking about logistics 4.0, we are talking about industry 4.0. If you're looking at the timeline over the past centuries, we have proceeded from a lot of manual work to computers. Now, you guys are not afraid of computers, are you? Who's not having a smartphone of you guys? Please show your hand. I thought as much. All of you are digital victims. We are going to use you. And we are going to use your knowledge and your affinity to digitalization and smartphones and applications and whatever. So don't be afraid. In the 80s, we had computers. We were already working with computers, with Excel. We had Windows 3.1. Who of you knows about Windows 3.1? Nobody thought so. Never mind. Long gone by. You will see that in a museum somewhere. But today, we have computers. We work with computers. Computer power today is so much. There's more computer power here in my wristwatch than what we had 25 years ago. So, also from the logistic part, we have to adapt to to these changing times. So that's why we start talking about logistics 4.0. Because we firmly believe that due to the digital age, it's a nasty word, within the digital age, logistics is going to change significantly in terms of human resources, in terms of how we do our business, in terms of what the customer is expecting. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's the customer who's paying our salaries. He's paying the bill. So whatever he wants, we have to think about how we do give it to him. Right? So in the next 10 years, we expect significant changes. And some of these changes have already started in Europe as well as in the US. And slowly, part of these changes, initialized through the digital age, will also spin over to Asia. We made a little bit of a questionnaire to more than 500 logistics and logistics affiliated companies in Germany. And not surprisingly, we figured out that one of the main cost or main drivers for digitalization is that everybody is hoping to reduce costs. Reducing costs, okay, that's fair. Speeding up the supply chain. Yeah, many of you will have some contacts with supply chain already. It's going to be more, I can promise you that. What we also expect from the digital age is less mistakes. Mistakes are not good. They cost money, they cost time, and they usually create a lot of headaches. Right? So with digitalization, we expect that this is going to decrease. Unfortunately, nobody of the companies we spoke to said that digitalization is entirely useless. So we all expect something. What are we looking at? Electronic billing, track and trace, so knowing whereabouts my cargo is, things like that. But we are looking at other things, more future things. You played the opening theme of Star Trek this morning, right? No, it was Star Wars. It was Star Wars, right? Now, Star Wars is not so far away from us, right? We're not flying around with T-fighters and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, if you're looking at the data that is being processed to build a Death Star or to fly a T-fighter is incredible. Convert this into logistics, how to make a T-fighter fly. That's your job, not the flying. Just to make sure that it does fly, right? So what we're looking at in the future of logistics as we envisage is that we are looking at big data analytics. So there were a couple of guys here from IT and systems, right? Show your hands. Who's from IT? Okay. Right, so you guys will have something to do with big data and data analytics. Right? You guys will look into blockchain technology. And you guys might also be looking into artificial intelligence. Cool. You guys will have good jobs in the future. I can promise you that. But what does this mean for logistics? In the moment, logistics very much is I put cargo on a truck, I jump on the truck, I drive for a couple of hours and I kick the cargo out. Easy. Same applies to ocean freight, pretty much the same applies to air freight. I have to do a little bit of storage, I put it in a warehouse, never mind. In the future, this is going to look a little bit different. We will have driverless forklifts driving around, nobody sitting on. We will have intelligent pallets. We will have intelligent racking system steered and controlled by computers. That's it. No human interaction. The human will still be there. When you're ordering something, are you buying from Alibaba, for example? You? No? Amazon? Are you buying anything online? You? Everybody. Right? How do you think that stuff you're ordering is coming to you? You ever thought about that? At least there's something in a warehouse somewhere that is handling the order that you just placed. So he or she needs to put it out of a shelf into a box, put a label on it, put it on a conveyor belt, put it in a truck, and another guy is probably going to deliver it to you. Right? There's a lot of manual work involved. And there can, a lot of mistakes can happen. So we believe that with, for example, smart lenses, I'm going to show you these, and smart gloves, this is going to help, and this is going to speed up the process, cutting down processing time, cutting down mistakes. So you see, there's a lot of changes that we envisage are going to happen over the next couple of years. 1 decade, it'll be here. Who ever heard about drones? Okay. What are drones? What do they do? They fly around and they can make pictures, right? We are going to use these babies in the warehouses. Believe me, it's happening. It's out there. Trust me. So, we say that in the next couple of years, transportation will be done through driverless vehicles. We believe that a lot of logistical efforts that need to be done, that a lot of logistical services will be done by drones, just flying around, right? Taking pictures and stuff. But we also believe that a lot of B2C, so business to customer deliveries, will be done by drone. In the US, they are already working on it. In Europe, they are also setting up the first pilot projects. So this is just going to be a question of time until you guys will have to face a situation that you have your own little drone flying around your head, trying to drop off your order, which you place with Amazon or Alibaba. What is also going to happen, what we believe, is we have a lot more robotics. So there's been more robots working in warehouses and things like that. We will use smart gloves, smart glasses. We will have intelligent pallets, and very importantly, especially for a situation in Jakarta, as an example, we will also have intelligent route planning. Now, what does intelligent route planning mean? It actually means that you're using a computer with on-time data of traffic situations in Jakarta at a specific second of the day. Right? You use a little bit of CCTV technology and stuff like that. You use a lot of GPS technology, and you can actually display and use these data for on-time, real-time route planning to tell your driver, don't turn left here, turn right, and the second left, and you'll be 5 minutes faster. That's going to happen. For Jakarta, maybe, good idea. I don't know. You will have to tell me in 5 years' time, or 10, or whatever, right? But this is what we foresee. I have to turn that way to make it work. So, at the end of the day, what we believe the people, the companies we asked, say, yeah, 88% digitalization, digital data will help us do our jobs better. So again, you IT guys, good choice. And this is how it looks like right now. Today, pilot projects already working in operation in the US, in Europe, part of it in Singapore, which is not too far away from here. So you're using just your iPad or your tablet, PC, whatever, and using big data, using censorships, using, not censorships, that's something different, using sensors, right? Sounds a little bit better. You use this to find cargo in your warehouse to make processes faster. So we're looking at a lot of data traffic here, we're looking at a lot of computer power. That also means that in the future, your jobs will be much, much more interlinked and connected with computer. So the more computer affinity you have, the more knowledge you have about, for example, social media, about, for example, application, programming applications and things like that. So the more you know about computers and IT, the better your job in the future will be. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about data, nothing else. Remember Data from Star Trek? The guy with the funny golden color visor? This looks different, but in a way, it's the same. That little monitor here, this little thingy, is a computer monitor. And whatever is, data are required to do a warehouse activity, like picking 5 pieces of a cargo out of a shelf, is displayed on this little computer. So the worker in the warehouse will see the information not on a sheet of paper, but right in front of his eye, with both hands free to collect the goods, put them in the collection bin, and proceed to the next stop. This is what pick and pack is more or less all about. That thing also has a scanner built in. So you don't have to use a handheld scanner and scan each and every individual item. So this is happening today. DHL is doing, anybody knows what DHL is doing? Delivering parcels, right? So DHL is doing this. They are doing a pilot for a Japanese company called Rico, which means to say they have equipped a complete warehouse with these Google glasses, these smart glasses, and what they realized is they have a 25% increase in productivity. 25% increase in productivity, that's a lot of money. And this is only DHL, right? Kuehne is doing something along these same lines, like Panalpina, DB Schenker, you name them. The big logistics guys are all looking into this sort of technology. Problem is, this technology does cost money. It does not come cheap, because it requires not only these funny looking glasses, but you also need a lot of computer power. So, setting up your warehouse, and you, some of you, will be doing that in the future once you finish your studies. Setting up a warehouse with this new sort of technology is going to cost money. So look at how much money you will have to spend and how to get the money back. Keyword, return on investment, right? Otherwise it just doesn't make sense. Don't forget that. I was talking about some sensors. If you're looking at this slide, there's already a lot of technology which is displayed here is already in action and in operation today, like CCTV, like RFID, radio frequency identification. Right? You're using this already on a very much everyday basis. You're communicating with Skype, for example, with your friend in the US, you need to have a satellite system, you need to have a GSM system, or whatever. Right? You need a carrier network. So we are using a lot of this technology already. In this room there's a free Wi-Fi, I think. I assume. So there's radio waves all around us. They are not going to go away, I can promise you. We'll use them. And this is what we believe is going to look like in the future. So forget the warehouses that you know presently. Look at this. There's not a single human working in that warehouse except a security guard. That's it. It's run by computers. Again, no human interaction. The racks on which the cargo is stored, shall we say, these are being moved about by autonomous computers. These little orange things. And the computers are controlled by, or the robots are controlled by computers. No human interaction, no longer required in the physical cargo handling. In the programming part, you guys are in the driver's seat. And if you don't program them, you have to understand how the technique works and how you can apply this for your customer's benefit, which at the end of the day will also be your company's benefit. Easy. Oops. Okay. Semi-automatic, right? There's still some human interaction. Can be used for different commodities, different goods. And that's your drone. That's your little flying things. This is what we believe is going to happen in the future. This is what we believe we will have to be not necessarily content with, but what we have to understand to work profitably in our chosen field, in our profession. So you guys, during your studies, you will have to start thinking about what do we do with data? What do we do with digital data? What do we do with these technologies? And how can we transfer these sorts of technologies, these developments, into our country, into our city, into our processes, into our customers' life? Because one thing's for sure, these will have an impact on you, on your life. Because whatever you buy on Alibaba or Amazon or whatever, they collect your data. And they know and watch you. Right? Thank you very much. I hope this was giving you a little bit of an insight. Thank you. I hope this was giving you a little bit of an insight of how we see and what we see is going to happen in logistics in the future. We'll be here for a little bit more time, so any questions, please feel free to ask later. Yeah? Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here for you. Thank you. And I'd like to hand over to my dear colleague Gunnar of Kuehne Indonesia, who will give you a little bit of his insights, right?
Thank you, Gunnar. Berapa menit waktu saya? waktu saya untuk ngobrol 20 menit. Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, good afternoon everybody. So, whatever Gunnar just said is correct. Yeah. The future arrived now. So all the technology are coming to our face. We as a company also adapt our company. When Gunnar said the smart lens, we in our innovation center in Singapore also use that. Try to find to implement it to our customer. And today I will take the opportunity first to introduce about the Kuehne Indonesia, and then later on I will share my experience in hiring the talent in Indonesia. Before that, can I ask you the question, who's going to be in this room, will be graduated in the next 6 months? Raise your hand. Anybody in this room that will be graduated in the next 6 months? No? Those who will be graduated in the next 12 months? No. Okay. But, for those who are going to be graduated, this will be useful for you, but also for those who are just new in the university, take this as a lesson learned for you and then use that as knowledge. Okay, let me start with this video. You can play this video first. Next slide. Next slide. Yes. There should be a video inside. Have you tried? No? One. Okay, the technical problem there. I actually have the video about the Kuehne, all the perception, all the experience of the newcomer, but unfortunately, can we play it? No. No? Okay, no worry. We skip that video and then let me introduce about the Kuehne. Kuehne is a logistic company. When we are talking about the logistic company, imagine that you order food for your lunch. You see the Gojek, for example. You don't know how the drivers will pick your food, but that's the process behind it, the logistic. When you buy, for example, the smartphone, Apple, Samsung, whatever it is, you only know that you come to the store, but you don't know how the iPhones coming from the overseas into the store. That's everything done by the logistic business. Yeah? And we already in this industry for more than 125 years. And then where we start with a where we start in Bremen, where I guess Mr. Kuehne stayed there, and we become the, sorry, can you go back, sorry? Can you help me to go back? Okay. And we start the international expansions until 2000, and now, today, we are in the 100 countries, more than 79,000 employees in the world. So what we do, we actually done several business units in our company. We do the sea freight first. Sea freight meaning if you look at the truck with the container, that's the container. We ship the container from one point to another point using the ship. Okay, that's what we call a sea freight business. In terms of the capacity, it's a huge capacity that we deliver. One box in logistic industry, we call it the TUs, and then you can imagine the 4 million container we deliver around the world. That's only by ship. And also we do the business by air, where we deliver more than 1 million tons every year. And also, Gunnar mentioned a bit about the contract logistics, the warehousing business. We also are in this business where we have 10 million square meter warehouse around the world, where we manage the warehouse for various companies in Indonesia and also in the world. And also for sure, from one point to another point, we need a truck. That's what we call the overland. That's our business also that we handle. As I said, we have hundreds and thousands, more than thousands of locations in the world, and we are number 3. We are the top 3 in the market in the world. Gunnar mentioned the company names like DHL, DB Schenker, and also us, and we are the top 3 in the world. And I said, around the world we have 79,000 employees more. And now, today, in Indonesia, we operated in the Jakarta office, and also we have the operation in the several offices like Semarang, Surabaya, Batam, and also another city like Medan. What we do basically is the same thing like what I explained before. We do the cargo delivery using the ship and also by air, and also do the overland as well as the warehousing for our customer. Gunnar mentioned about digitalization, which is that's a quite common word we hear every day, digitalizations. But what it means for us? For us, meaning that in the past we do all manual. When we're picking a material from one place, put in the rack, and also deliver to somewhere else, we do all manual in the old day. But now, with the smart plants, the one that you just mentioned before, everything will be done automatically, and then where we end up with the very accurate inventory level. Yeah, because all linked with the data. Sorry, what happened? Sorry. And that's what we call the Internet of Things, or IT. That's when it comes to the recruitment. I will talk a bit about the recruitment later on. And also we do the integrated logistics business here. We are not only talking about one small warehouse, but we do the integrated part on how to bring the cargo from the overseas into your hand in the store. Yeah. Mr. Gunnar also mentioned about how to pick up using the technology. We also do that, not using the robot yet, but we will do also the technology on how to deal with this kind of technology. As we are a multinational operated in 100 countries in the world, so interconnectedness within each country is a very important thing for us. Yeah. And then also back to the talent, we need also the people who are able to handle this all complexity that we have. Yeah. Now, before I talk about the development plan, our development focus in the company, I would like to share my pragmatical experience hiring the people. And then I can skip this slide. Maybe I will straight to this. Anytime we hire people, we want to refer to this. We want to hire people that has the technology mindset and has a capability in using the technology. You know what? Some people send me an application. They send me a nice introduction about himself, and then they give me the link to the cloud, so I can browse their CV, browse all their project. So that's really impressive for me. And then that's something that we would like from the company point of view, to bring the new graduates who has the capability in digitalizations. And also the someone who has the mindset of the international, because you will be working for the multinational company. And then we are the multinational company. You have to come to us with all the international mindset. What it is, I will explain that one in the recruitment process. And you have to come to the recruiter with a very motivated behavior. You cannot come to when you facing the interview, deal with the recruiters. You say that I want a job because blah 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 blah. We don't say your patience. So that's gonna work. It won't work. We want people who have a very high motivation to join us. And when you look at the process is very generic, yeah. But the challenge, we have many challenges in recruiting, but I guess the main challenge is for you of finding a job. Let's example, when you want to find a job, do you know what is your first challenge? When you want to get a job, do you know what is the first challenge? For example, if for the IT people, do we have the IT people here in this room? Yes, yeah. For example, you want to get a job with Apple or Google. What is the first challenge that you have? Can you say something? What is the first challenge when you get a job with Apple? What is the first challenge? Do you know the first challenge that you have? The first challenge that you will face when you are graduated and then start searching the job is how to get your foot in the door and get a job with Apple, with Google, with KM. Meaning you are invited for an interview. That's the first challenge for you. And also that's the challenge for me as the recruiters in the company. Nowadays, when I advertise a vacant position, I will receive a bunch of applications, 1,000 applications, and we don't have a time to read 1,000 applications because we have many things that need to be done as well. And what we do is, we really want to read the application that attract our attention. So your first challenge is how to make your CV that attract the attentions of the recruiters. It doesn't have to be the fancy CV, colorful. It doesn't have to be like that. But you have to somehow prepare your profile, your CV, that link to what required by the company. When the company has more patience on the innovation and technology, and you don't describe that you have that kind of capability within your CV, you will not get invited. You will not get invited. I will only pick the CV that come to my attentions. And also, that's the first touch point for you as the student who are searching for a job. You send the CV that's make the recruiters attract to read that. And also, we have, I believe that here you also have the career day. That's also one of the touch points for you to get the attention of the recruiters. And I was attending several career day, and then I can pick up 1, 2, 3, 5 people at least that really come to my attention that these gentlemen, these ladies, I want to hire because they really show the capability, the competence that what we want. And that is the first touch point for you. That's become the challenge for you on how you attract the company to invite you to come for the interview. And the second challenge for you is when you get invited for the job interview, is how to impress the recruiters, the interviewers. I had an interview 2 weeks ago interview one candidate for the marketing communications. And you know what? When I start asking the questions and he replied, can I present something? I prepare something for the Kuehne, the strategy for the communications. And he turned on this computer and started explaining to me he's taking his thought about on how to do the marketing communication. And that's really impressed me a lot. Thank you for reminding me. And that's the second touch point for you. You have to impress the interviewer. And the next day, he got an interview with the hiring managers. And I can see from the room, because the room is with the glass, I can see he's standing in front of the interviewer, the hiring manager. And the hiring manager is sit down. And you know what he does is he's explained with a very patient, high patience about his capability. That's very rare. I found that kind of the candidates. So that's the second task for you when you deal with the interview. You really need to impress the interviewers. And then the rest, you have to really good in terms of negotiations, in other words. But as a newcomer, I guess many of you will not be in the position to negotiate more, but you can still really able to say what is your aspiration, what is your expectation with the company, so the company can bring you on board as a new company, as a new employee. That's at least the 3 challenges that you will face when you are searching for the new jobs. I guess someone remind me back then that my time is up. So I open for any discussion and sharing my experience during the question and answer later on. Yeah. I think that's the introduction for me. We can continue with the question and answers as someone remind me that my time is up. Yeah. Okay.
So, after we hear our speakers has speak their materials, we invite them to sit here
to the stage.
To come to the stage to answer all of the questions from the participants or for debate sessions. Please give big applause for them. Okay, now for the first 3 participants who will give a question, we will give
Special gift.
special gifts. 3 special gifts for the first 3 participants who will give a question for our speakers here.
Please raise your hand if you want to ask for the 2 speakers.
Yeah. Do you do that?
In an increasingly digitalized era, like the modern countries, they are adopting these new technologies, right? Now, what would happen? In logistics, the countries have to communicate, right? It's shipping something from one country to another, right? Now, for developing countries, countries that don't necessarily have the capital to implement these technologies, how do we ensure that the highly advanced modern countries that rely heavily on these technologies to essentially transfer the experience to developing countries? How the experience can still be reliable between countries? Thank you.
Yeah, possibly I'll try to give an answer because I think a similar question comes up very often. In my opinion, I think there's possibly a misconception. So when you compare, let's say, developed and developing countries, then there's big chances for developing countries to cope up with very developed countries. So in order to answer your question, I possibly pose a question back. So when I would ask you, where at the moment globally do you think is the most modern air freight hub in the world? Would anybody want to make a guess? Where do you think the air freight hub at an airport for air freight, the most modern air freight hub, where do you think that is? Anybody wants to guess? If you come up with the right answer, I also give you a voucher. I'm gonna give you a round trip. You can join us on one of our trips. It's actually in Addis Ababa. It's in Ethiopia. Nobody would have ever come up with that answer. So my point I wanted to make is that the chances when you look into the development of, let's say, technology is you do not have to go gradually. You don't have to go through all the stages, let's say, other countries have gone through. But what you do is you can jump in directly to what is latest available. And this is rather a chance for developing countries because, let's say, countries like Germany, countries, or very many, let's say, countries in Europe, also in the US, actually we are the ones struggling. So when you go into Germany, do not expect that everywhere you're gonna have an internet connection. So we're gonna find it in the city, but when you go a little bit outside of the city, we do not have that. You would never expect that from Germany. So the point I wanted to make is the knowledge is available, and the knowledge is available for everybody. And what we sometimes see is when investments shall be made, it is sometimes easier to do it in developing countries. You just go in with the latest technology instead of replacing something. That is sometimes even much more difficult. That's just my opinion. Maybe from a practical point of view.
Just would like to share the experience of my colleagues in the office. We have participated in tender with one of the MCG company here in Jakarta. Yes, you are right that they want anything that digitalized, but in the end, because the labor cost in Indonesia is relatively low compared to the implemented the high technology, they are now still in between deciding to go with the full digitalization or not. But the technology is there and the need is there in the market. Just for them to decide whether they want to move forward with this kind of high technology or not. So, but the needs for the market is there, even in the developing country.
Maybe I'll give you another example here in Jakarta. Because last year we went to visit the port of Jakarta. And the port of Jakarta, to my knowledge, got a new terminal. And the new terminal is fully automated. So you went already with the latest technology available. You could have gone with a kind of labor-intensive option, but you did not. So I think that's a good example of applying the latest technology even here in Indonesia. It's straightforward, I think.
I think there's one more item that can be issued, especially on the developing countries compared to the developed countries. You are not carrying around this sort of backpack with old experiences, with outdated technologies and things like that the developed countries do, right? You're open, you're fresh in a way. So you can immediately jump on the latest technologies. You don't have to bother about what happened 20 years ago, right? So it's actually easier. And the examples given, I think they speak for themselves. So don't differentiate between developing and developed. Just say, okay, we want to do it. How do we do it? And by when?
Maybe as a final comment to that, there is sometimes a misconception that, let's say, the Western world sets a standard. That's long gone. When you look at the payment options, we are very traditional, yeah?
We go with credit cards. So when I travel to China, I have difficulties paying with credit cards because everybody is trying with a mobile. Yeah, can I have that now? You find it in Africa. So the credit card people at the moment, the credit card business, in comparison to what will be the future technology, I do not believe it will survive. So it's at the moment, it's when you look into standards, it's very much the Asian world that kind of sets the standard.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the great answers. And then we still have the...
we have online students that already put the questions over there.
Okay. So we have a question from the Binus Online Learning. The first question is from Hoki Sanjaya. What is the best way from logistic perspective to reduce the amount of jobless people in the future when the technology is replacing human in working place?
So, you know, all the IT, all the technology has no intention to replace the people. But the good thing is, when we replace the people with the technology, we also develop people, our employees, on how to use the technology. So it's not about something that you will be jobless, but something that you will get a new skill on how to become a technology savvy. Yeah. For those who cannot follow, unfortunately, they will be lost a job. But the intention for us implementing all technology in our business is not to get rid of the people, but to improve the skill of our people on how to use the technology, and then you all becomes a professional handling the job.
Okay, I think that we are possibly in the wrong faculty here, or in the wrong school. I'm not necessarily sure that it has something to do with logistics only. It affects all societies. So what we will see is that technology will change the way we live. It will impact finances, it will impact transportation, it will impact the way we purchase goods. Yeah? So we see that we purchase more and more online. So what about those people that work in the retail shops in the city center? It is a question of what the society models will be. I'm not sure that we in logistics at the moment, let's say, have the trouble. If we look into many, let's say, European countries, we have a shortage of labor. I think that is, we're still looking for skilled labor forces. And I think particularly here in Indonesia, we also look for skilled labor. At the moment, we don't have the problem. If you ask me in 20 years' time, then it's not necessarily a question, are you a skilled labor force, yes or no? The question is our general global society model actually ready with the system we have if technology advances that fast? So I think it's not limited to logistics. I do not believe that we can kind of limit that to logistics. And maybe another comment is, logistics has always been a market for people that want to do something. So traditionally, if you work for large corporations, if you work in industry, you're often just a little, employee, you're a little part of a big something. And if you do logistics for Mercedes-Benz, then what we see is you do maybe just logistics for the left rear door. That's your part. If you work in, let's say, logistics service providers, traditionally we have always been to the forefront. You have to deal with customers, you have to make decisions, you have to make an offer. So we have always been from this kind of entrepreneurial spirit that you deal with kind of complex tasks. So when we look into logistics and logistics service providers, I think we can definitely look into jobless people when they are qualified. It's about the nature of the person that you would like to trade. You buy services, you sell services, you try to find solutions for complex tasks, and you need a certain skill set and a certain attitude if you want to do that. It's not for people that want to sit in the office and just do a job.
Okay, thank you for the speakers. And we have another question.
My name is Muhammad Bogosarafi from Mass Communication. I just want to ask that, I know this is actually a IT-based company. I'm just curious that, do we as a mass communication student have the same possibility to get selected or hired at this company? Because mass communication itself, we learn about journalism and broadcasting. Do we have same chance to get in to be hired at this company? Just that.
So you have the background in the communications.
Yeah, but this communication just like learning about journalism and broadcasting.
Yeah, you know what? Any company needs to market their product, needs to communicate with the customer. For sure, in the logistics also we need a kind of people like for the marketing communication. In the example that I just mentioned in my presentation, we just hire one marketing communication manager for a company. For sure, it's not 100 people will be hired as a communication, but yes, you have a chance to work with the logistics industry.
So we still can get into a company, or
why not?
Well, if you ask that way with the basis of your studies with mass communication and broadcasting and things like that, yes, as my dear colleague just said, every company will have to find ways and means to communicate, to market, to be in touch with customers, and to also bring the message across to potential customers. So I'm quite sure that with a solid base and solid toolbox which you will get during your studies, you will find employment not only in logistics, but you can find employment pretty much everywhere, which must not necessarily be a TV station or a radio broadcast station or a newspaper. Because the knowledge you have, especially on the IT side, this is required, and this is going to be even further required in the future. And how to get data from A to B in broadcasting is pretty much the same as it is in logistics. I also have to get data from A to B. So use your knowledge, use your education, use the toolbox you get during your studies, and find out where you can best make use of this. And this is what you also mentioned. You have to convince the stakeholders of the company you are looking at that you are the right person for that job. You have to sell yourself, and the rest will then follow. Right? But it's the sales pitch. Most important, get in the door first. That's your main job.
And logistics is not a rocket science. Everybody can learn. And then we know that we are not going to hire 100% from the logistics university, because we want also to have a diverse employee. Some of our employees coming from the logistic background, some from non-logistic background. Because the one that you can, my advice to you, if you have non-logistic background, start with they have two options at least. Start with the internship program, where during the internship program you will get the new knowledge about the logistic, or you join a kind of graduate program, where we in the Kuehne also have that kind of program. In the graduate program, you will have an opportunity over 2 years of period to move around from the various business to learn something new. And maybe the question, why do we need to hire the communication, for example, in your case? We are not only hiring those who have the logistics, as I said. We also want to hire people with a good logic, international mindset. If you have that kind of the capability, don't be afraid to apply. That's my advice.
I hired last week, no it's not true, maybe last month, a new project manager with a degree in psychology that is not even close to my area of educational logistics. But he fitted what I was looking for. So there's always this kind of let's say, cross relationship between sometimes what you study and sometimes what you end up working.
Yes.
So I think the answer is it's not possible. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
So I just have to focus on my internship to extend my knowledge about logistics, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, so it's not possible for you as a mass communication student to work here at the Kuehne. And then the next question is from the television again. It's from Ronaldo Krinsal. About digitalization in logistics, does every blockchain platform need smart contract? Does every
Well, that's a very, very good question. Because it's talking about two different issues. We're talking about blockchain, we're talking about smart contracts. What is blockchain? And do we need blockchain in logistics? That's a good question. That's the first question. Blockchain in the moment is a hype. Everybody is talking about blockchain. Everybody is thinking about how do I get data from A to B in a way that nobody can goof around with these data. But nobody is asking the question, do I need this technology? Right? Do I need blockchain in logistics? Question. Right? Do I really need this data security, and what sort of data do I have available? And who are the other stakeholders in this entire chain? So what I'm trying to say is, everybody is talking about blockchain. Nobody really thought, is blockchain absolutely necessary for logistics? And if so, to what extent? Do I really have to fit the entire supply chain into a blockchain, or do I just fit certain parts of it into the blockchain? Like with Kuehne, they are working on a worldwide basis. They are working worldwide with a single computer system in which they process all customers' their shipment data. So they can operate something like mini blockchain within Kuehne, no problem. But the moment you have to put customs and excise into this picture, for example, you will try to bring customs and excise into this blockchain by adding data, you will have to find ways and means for data security, data interfacing, and so on and so on. The question is, does this really need, is this really required? So if you decide to do that, think about it first. All right? Now, do we need smart contract? What is a smart contract? Is a smart contract an electronic contract? Then it's easy. Right? But first of all, a smart contract should be a contract which is smart. Right? Not something fishy, not special, not really specialized and specific and without real targets and things like that. So I think it's more a question of, do we need blockchain in logistics and to what extent? Then we can proceed to the next step. And I think this is going to take a little bit of time. This is not going to happen next year. Blockchain in logistics, this will take another couple of years until we're there. In small versions within Kuehne, DHL, Shankers, whatever, they might have it. But this is for internal. And to a certain extent, when it comes to contract logistics, they might link the customer with this. But if you add all stakeholders in trucking, haulers, port agents, customs and excise, and so on and so on and so on, you are creating a huge blockchain with, at this stage of time, a lot of problems. So give it a little bit of time, then we will have to look at it.
possibly one comment. I think smart contracts is something we already have today. Yeah. So we have electronic contracts where you have robots that connect different data sets, and you're going to, let's say, bill automatically. You know, that's straightforward. The question is what blockchain, what the role of blockchain will be. And I think it's not a technical question, it's a political question. Because when we link today global supply chains, when you look into how many components an iPhone consists and how many countries are involved, then the question is, what about the governments losing control? Because the idea of a blockchain is that it cannot manipulate the data. The question is, do we want that politically, yes or no? At the moment, we do have a tendency of countries rather kind of shutting down or basically building up walls, yeah? Going into trade wars, not having any kind of global supply chains anymore. If we're going to implement blockchains globally, then there's hardly any way of controlling private businesses. So you can't really shut something down because it would contradict the idea of a blockchain. Yeah? So I think it's a political question if the blockchain topic will emerge globally, which is the idea at the moment we have it. So my order would be smart contracts is certainly possible and we do have that. The question is, can we combine it with blockchains on top of that?
Well, again, first we will have to understand what do we want to do with this blockchain, and do we really need it for our businesses? In the moment, I think it's a hype, everybody's talking about it, but most of these people talking about it have no idea what they are talking about.
And blockchain is very advanced. So to give you one idea, the CEO of Kuehne, I think at the last year's conference here, somewhere in Asia, I can't remember where it was, I think it was in Singapore, he mentioned that today we do not have transparency about all the shipments globally. So he said, if I remember correctly, that at the moment 70% of all the shipments Kuehne delivers every day, we do not have full transparency. So that is what we have with current technologies. So even though we are connected, even though we have the internet, even though we have all the systems where we could have kind of transparency and link all the different data sets whatsoever, we don't do it. So the question is, what can blockchain, where do we need blockchain? What is the actual value creation for us in our business?
Okay, for Mr. Gunnar, there's another question from Aga. Within 10 years, our industrial logistics become industry 4.0. It will be big product lines because a lot of workers will stop working because by drone and driverless on industry 4.0. So please answer.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent this question which was posted, which is also a very good question, thank you for that. But to a certain extent, this question was already answered earlier by both Andre as well by Ronaldo. Logistics 4.0 and digitalization will change the way we do business. It does not mean that we as a human being will not have anything to do in the future. Right? The jobs, the requirements and the duties that we have to carry out will change. There will be a shift in focus, there will be a shift in responsibilities, there will probably, might even be in job functionalities, we don't know. But it does not necessarily mean that because of digitalization and drones and driverless vehicles, all of us will have to not go to the office. Quite on the contrary, we will have different functions, we will have different jobs to carry out, we will have different responsibilities today. Because mind you, even a semi-automated warehouse will have to be maintained and will have to have somebody who planned it, who thought about it, and put it up, and who's keeping it in operation, right? So, job perceptions might change, responsibilities might change, but we as a human being, we will still be there. We will not be running around like robots and human cyborgs or things like that. So that's a little bit further into the future, 23 or something.
Just to give one example in HR, for example, in the old days, attendance system, that's the most simple thing. Clock in, clock out. We do everything manual. Clock in, clock out, and also we do Excel. Now, can you imagine if you have 1,000 employees And you cannot do a manual process. Instead now we do also the technology. But I still need people not to count how many people that are come on time or not. But now the job has changed. It's more become a strategic job for them now on how they analyze the attendance of people and to create the policy moving forward. For example, from the data they know people, for example, we have the working hours is 8 to 5. And from the data they know the people always come 8:30. And it's the discussion is changed to the strategy because they want to change why don't we change the working hours? Because people, for example, 80% people coming 8:30. So why don't we change 8:30 to 5:30 instead of 8 to 5? What I'm trying to say is, as also Gunnar said, we still need the people, but maybe the job will be sitting more complex. Yeah. When Gunnar talk about the data that we need to analytic, make a data that need to analytic in HR, small part of organization, that also apply technology that impacted to the way we work. But it doesn't mean that I kick out the people who make this. Everything rely on the machine. No, I still need the people to analyze.
3 comments to that. Number one, I think we should not see technology advancement as a threat. I think generally what our human development has been proven is advancement in technology has not been benefiting us. When it comes to the reduction of, let's say, jobs available as a result of advanced technology, well, the good news is if you're impacted here in Indonesia, why should that be different in Europe and the US? So if people do not find a job as a result of advanced technology, that there will be no difference anywhere in the world. So there must be a global solution to tackle the problem. I do not think it's a localized solution we come up with. Number 2 is part of the question. I just wanted to mention, we heard the word driverless, and we saw the topic of drones. So my first question would be, do you really believe that we're going to have the drones flying all around here in Jakarta? Because I do not believe that. How many drones would you like to have flying around in Jakarta? Yeah, how many million people do you have here? So the drones is something very fancy, yeah? Super nice, you can see that you're going to have one drone flying, delivering one parcel or whatever. How on earth can we deliver, millions of tons every single day to millions of customers? Do we really do that with drones? I do not believe that. So we should not overestimate the impact of drones, even though they can become part of logistics distribution system. I think there's no doubt about that. But I do not believe that it will be to that extent as sometimes we see it in press. I think we overestimate the impact of drones. And the second one is, today we do have the capacities of having driverless systems. On the way from our hotel to here, I'm not so sure if Tesla or even Mercedes would be ready to launch the driverless system here on Jakarta, on the Jakarta street. Possibly not, yeah, because we wouldn't make it 10 meters, yeah, because a crazy motorcycle would crash. Yeah? So I cannot believe that we are that advanced at the moment. And I also think, just on a side note, that sometimes we forget about when we have technological advancement, we sometimes forget about the ethical decisions. So what we have at the moment when it comes to legal decisions, imagine we do have a driverless vehicle, and in front of that vehicle is a 86-year-old man. And for whatever reason, there's no real option to avoid a crash, other than you're gonna have to divert to the right. Unfortunately, on the right-hand side where you want to divert is now a 12-year-old girl. So we as humans would not necessarily think, our brain is not capable of calculating. We opt, either we go straight or we turn to the right, and that is different from person to person. If we talk about technology, now Who wants to program the truck? Do we drive over the 90 or the 86-year-old man? Or do we divert and drive over the 12-year-old girl? Who wants to make the decision here? How do you program a truck to make a call? Or do you program that the truck is not making the call? So technology, I think, will develop, and we're going to find solutions. But I think as a society, we also then have to find solutions to some certain areas which we have not really thought about. And I think before we scale those things up, I think I would not worry about that. Final sentence. When you look into land transportation, which is possibly more structured in Europe than possibly here in Asia, which I assume because of the topography, you do not find any CEO that is convinced that in the near future we're going to have so many driverless trucks. We are not convinced that we do have the diesel engines replaced by fully electric trucks. It will take a couple of years, maybe even decades. So will it come? Yes. Will it happen very quickly? Don't believe so. So we do have some time.
Okay. For the third question.
Are you number 4 now? Do you still get a prize?
I don't know.
Or
my name is Gerald from Computer Science. My question is, since your logistics is relying on these modern technologies like drones and driverless forklifts and etc., what about the other logistics companies or traditional logistics or even startups, so that they can, what can they focus on to improve their services other than this technology, since they can afford it here? What can they focus on, so they improve their services?
So the question is, they cannot afford technology, and
not yet. Since
not yet. Startup cannot afford to buy the new expensive technology, and then what they can do?
I mean, yes, what they can do at the moment, so they can improve their services, get more revenue, and to improve their technologies.
I got the point.
Use to enable.
Use to enable. Okay, that's the answer. Use to enable. And then, but normally, when the company has not enough money to invest in technology, you need to focus on how you operate excellently. Meaning, when for those who are in the industrial engineering, maybe they know, you need to start to mapping out your process, streamline all your process, and then on how we do it better, on how we do it faster in delivering our service to the customer. If you can do it manually, and properly, of course, and then you will still have an ability to serve your customer properly.
Yeah, I think my answer was not necessarily a joke. I mean, what you do as a startup is there's hardly any way or any chance that you can finance into capital-intensive goods. And when we talk about logistics and logistic systems, it's capital-intensive. So this is what logistic service providers are for. Because what they do is they're going to purchase very capital-intensive goods, like a warehouse, like a forklift truck, like whatever, and this is what they offer to those organizations who can't do it. So when we talk about return on investment margins, to give you just an idea, if you're in the pharmaceutical business, if you are in chemical, you talk between 20%, 30%, even higher. Yeah. When we talk about logistics service providers, I think we talk about medium-sized, possibly 2 to 3%, larger, possibly 5 to 8%, and if you're super lucky, you even make it 10. So my point is, don't invest into logistics equipment, into logistics capital goods, but this is what you do at a later stage. You're going to, let's say, variabilize your capital goods, yeah? And this is what you're going to purchase services, whatever is required from logistics service providers. So I do not recommend to go into that stage at the very beginning. It's not recommendable for startups.
Okay, thank you. Is that answering your questions?
More or less, yes.
What is the last part? So,
what's the less part? What is that you're missing?
I'm not really into this kind of things. I'm just interested in the technologies.
Can you repeat? Sorry.
I'm not really good at this stuff, so I'm not the one to know about this. So
Bahasa Indonesia?
Enggak, jadi nggak itu ngerti tentang logistiknya sih, jadi makanya nanya tadi.
Okay, you don't really understand about the logistics, that's why you ask the questions. Yeah.
So we...
Thank you.
So we move to the online question again. It's from Andre Bunadi. In a manufacturing company, it is better to develop own or external logistics or own transportation division, or it is better to use outsourcing logistics, well-known company. What is the pro and contra? Thank you very much.
I'm not the business unit man, but I know that my colleagues in the contract logistics also deal with this kind of topic here. So it's company decision, are we going to outsource the trucking, in this case, the transportation, or are we going to own the transportation business? That's really depend on the business case. If you want to invest money on the truck, and there will be also, first of all, capital, you need to have quite a lot of capital, and then you need to think about the maintenance of the truck and once, and you need also to have the driver, maybe, I don't know. But if you let the expert who does your transportation for you, that's also another benefit for you. So that's really, you as a company need to decide which one that's your priority for this year. Do you want to grow up your transportation, or do you want to make money by doing the outsourcing of the transportation? That really depends on the business case and the company objective.
The answer is simple. There's two components you have to consider as clarification. Number one, logistics is not necessarily simple. If you just have a look into Kreie of how many different business units they have. So we talk about pharmaceuticals, we talk about chemicals, we talk about humanitarian, we talk about sea freight, air freight, contract logistics, and so on. We even talk about hotel logistics. Yeah? There's hundreds of different units of what you can have. So number one is, in which business are you in? Are we talking about, let's say, more standardized activities? Then the question is, do you believe as an organization that you can do sea freight better than Kuehne, who does it for a living? The answer might be no. So why not to use a specialist in that area? If you do have a more, let's say, specific product, then you can think about, do I possibly do that with own staff? Yeah, because I need to protect my goods, I need to package it properly in a different way. So the question is, number one, what is your product? Number two is, what kind of value is logistics adding to your services and to your company? So when you think about purchasing, for example, something from the store, and you have the choice to make between Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Who in this room makes a decision either to buy Coca-Cola or Pepsi depending on how it got into the shelf? Nobody does that. So nobody's even interested through which warehouse it went, who drove it, which truck did it from the sea or there. So logistics is not a competitive element in the sense of adding value, because all the products are normally available in supermarkets today. So we're going to have to look into just focusing on cost. If we can outsource it to a logistics service provider and bring the cost down, we do it. If we do it ourselves cheaper, we do it. It's just a pure cost element. Whereas in other areas, you can decide and say, hey, logistics is a very kind of strategic element, it's a competitive element. So when you talk, for example, about Amazon is at the moment doing something logistics service providers don't necessarily like, because they start to purchase their own airplanes. They invest in capital goods because they say, well, distribution is one of our core activities within the organization. So, is logistics core to us? Is it adding value? Do we differentiate from other organizations? Then, if that is the case, then you should do it better in-house. If it is about we need to cut costs, we need to kind of use external expertise, we want to invest in our core business, want to be variable, we cannot afford to purchase a forklift truck in a warehouse, then this is where you're going to outsource to organizations. This is service providers.
Okay, so the next question from the participants here. Anybody want to ask a question for our speakers?
Good afternoon, Mr. Andre, Mr. Gunnar, and Mr. Sven. My name is Ariola and I am from Accounting and System Information. I want to ask a question. It is about sea freight and air freight. Is there any possibility that sea freight, air freight will outperform sea freight in business? And will sea freight business cease to be? Thank you.
So the question is if air freight will outperform sea freight?
Yes.
Okay. And outperform means what?
Sea freight will cease to be.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, in the meantime, once I discuss your question, I possibly start to answer it. I do not believe that. Number one, we always have, at the moment at least, bulk goods. That's a minimum, yeah? So, at the moment we still have some oil which we need to ship from A to B. So the question is that realistic that we do not do that anymore? I mean, oil is probably not the right example, but just to have other bulk goods which we have to ship. When we talk about containerized goods, then if sea freight is going to be non-existing anymore, we have a revolution on this planet. Because our entire globe at the moment, the connection between the different nations is that we have an interconnected supply chains. So you purchase some goods from Vietnam, you purchase some goods from China, you assemble them in Australia and sell them to South Africa. And when we look into the masses of how much we kind of distribute every single day, the only realistic option is sea freight. So that means if we would stop kind of trading, then the question is, what is the entire business model for our globe? Because everybody would be impacted. So I do not think that it is realistic that at the moment, or even in the near future, we do stop trading, yeah? And we do stop trading in such masses that we do not require sea freight. At the moment, what we see is that the air freight business is increasing significantly. I think there's no doubt about that. Will that remain in the future? It might be questionable. Because when you look into 3D printing, just to give you one example, then we talk about spare parts. So at the moment, we're going to have a lot of spare parts that are flown around the world because we need it very quickly. It's not often, you know, it's quite expensive, so we can't ship it around the world, so we need to fly it. If I now can start printing my spare parts locally, I possibly don't need to fly them. So what you see at the moment in the strategies for, let's say, organizations like carriers, logistics service providers, that in the air freight business, everybody tries to focus on at least two areas. One area is pharmaceuticals, and the second area is perishables. And there's one single reason for that. You cannot print your orange, and you cannot print pharmaceuticals at the moment. So the question is air freight having a super great future, I honestly don't know. What we see at the moment, it is increasing. I do not necessarily believe that it will be increasing over the next decade, because I think what we can reduce is rather air freight than sea freight. But I might be wrong on that. So my projection would be sea freight will be remaining. Air freight in the next couple of years will increase. In the next decades, might even decrease. But if I could project it with certainty, I would not be sitting here, but would possibly in the Bahamas and on the beach. But then I don't have to work anymore if I could make some very accurate predictions.
Also, I think you will have to look at the volumes between air freight and ocean freight. I mean, today's ocean carrying vessels plying the trade between Asia and Europe, Asia, North America, and return. We are looking at ships that have a carrying capacity of 20,000 TEUs. Now, if you just assume that each one of these TEUs, which is 20-foot equivalent container, is weighing 20 tons, that would mean that on each and every one of these ships we have something like 400,000 tons of cargo. Now, on a 747 cargo freighter, I can put something like 120 tons of cargo. So it's just a matter of calculation how many 747 cargo freighters I need to lift off these 400,000 tons I can put on one ship. And I have a ship going pretty much every 3 days. So I don't think, and I agree with you, ocean freight is not going to disappear, not until human mankind managed beaming. Once we can beam from A to B, then we will have different logistics. But until then, ocean freight will remain and air freight will remain. Might change a little bit in the ratio, but in general, ocean freight will still be there. But it's good that you are very air freight affiliated, so if you're looking for a good job in air freight business, then he's the guy you need to talk to. Alright?
Thank you for the question. We have last question from Business on the Learning from Annie. For Gunnar, what is the proper step to start a logistics company, and what is the future of logistics business in terms of market size and growth, especially in Indonesia or Asia?
Okay, good question again, and if I could answer especially the last part, I would join Andrew in the Bahamas on the beach. Right. Unfortunately, no, I haven't studied in Hogwarts, so I don't know how to read a crystal ball. Going from one-to-one, what is the proper step to start a logistics company? Well, first of all, you need to have a good idea. You need to know what you want to do, and you need to have a good idea, and then you also need to have somebody to sell this idea to, which is usually your banker first, because you don't have the money to go directly into this capital-intensive field of business. So, of course, there are startup companies around in Europe as well as in the US who are providing logistical services by nothing else than just an IT platform or an application which you can run on your smartphone, which is like freight hubs, which is like quotation hubs and rate hubs and things like that. These pop up, set up shop, and are taken over usually by a bigger company, a bigger IT company, or things like that. You're asking me how to set up a company in Indonesia? I would have to go and ask some people from the legal department to see what's the procedures if I want to register a company in Indonesia. But first of all, you will have to have an idea of what you want to do. Air freight, ocean freight, trucking, how you want to do it, and where to get the money from. Right? So it's not that thing to say, okay, I just finished whatever I've done today, and tomorrow I'm working actively in logistics, competing with Kuehne or Schenkers or so. It doesn't work that way. Right? So, better have an idea and check with the big guys if they can make use of your idea and you cooperate with them, they have a bigger chance to survive in this very competitive field, right?
Yeah, just want to add, you also need to understand whether is there any needs from the markets. So if there is no need, you cannot start the business. For example, you can see here in Jakarta, we have many small logistic companies involved currently. We have, in the past, Gojek only has a business on the Go bike, but now Gojek also has the business in the logistic. When they have Go Stand, Go Box, that's part of the logistic. We have many companies, Tiki, not Tiki, was some new company established in Indonesia because they see the markets of the online business when they need to deliver the goods. So that's why they established the company. So in addition to what Gunnar said, you really think that is there any market for us or not? Is there any needs for us or not? In Indonesia, with the booming of the online business, you can see many small companies growing up now here in Indonesia, logistic. It's not really compete with the Kuehne DB Center, but they are starting to have a small business of the logistic.
At the end of the day, it's a question of what sort of services you can offer, what sort of services you want to. So focus on your core capabilities and core knowledge and build out of that, build out of strength. Not just saying, okay, I'm going to go into logistics and do everything. Well, everything you can't. Well, that's sorry to say. And the future of logistics in Indonesia, as you just said, there's startup companies coming and logistics will become a very important part in every society, be it Indonesia as a country or be it Europe or be it the US. We will not work or we will not function without logistics. Because, as Andre said, nobody cares how the Coke and the Pepsi got into the shelf. Well, we know it's there. And we expect it to be there. We don't care how it got there. That's what we have logistics for. And as human mankind grows and we all have money and we would like to spend money, be it online or offline, so digital or analog, we still need to have goods. So trade will always be there and we will always have to have goods to be transported from A to B. Point of sale being the last stop. Not the last stop, because the last stop is your doorstep.
The answer, we have any get the answer. For the last question is Audi. Is that okay? Last question.
I'm Radi from Business Creation. I want to ask about the implementation of the technology like the drones and the Google Lens and something like that. I want to ask about the biggest challenge in your opinion in the implementation of the technology and how will you overcome it? Thank you.
Can you repeat? Sorry, we don't get the question, sir.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I want to ask about the using of the new technology like the AR and the drones. What, in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge, the implementation of the technology, and how will you overcome it?
What is the business challenge of implementing a new
technology? Biggest challenge.
Okay. Well, I can answer the drones. Let's start with that one. According to my knowledge, any drone that weighs more than 25 kilograms is perceived globally as military equipment. So whatever we see on the market at the moment for drones is we're going to have a capacity limit in terms of payload. So we have at the moment what we see 5 kilograms, 2 kilograms, 10 kilograms what we can deliver with drones. That may work for pharmaceuticals, but obviously when we talk about mass consumer goods, Whenever you look into what you purchase in your kind of average supermarket shopping trip, then you can't even get that delivered by a drone. So for drones, we're going to certainly have the, let's say, the legal requirements. Yeah? So there's a lot of stuff you have to overcome from a legal perspective. I'm not so sure if we do have, when we talk about, let's say, Google Glass, I do not think that we do have really some, let's say, legal limitations to implement that. It is, at the end of the day, it's a cost-benefit analysis what you have to do. So anything you do is you're going to make an investment, yeah? Very simple. And so the question is, when do I need to invest? What does it cost and what kind of improvements do I get? And what we see, and this is coming back to my first kind of comment we had before, let's assume you have invested already by pick-by-voice or pick-by-light technology. You already operate a warehouse. Now the question is, what do I have to invest to switch from pick-by-voice, pick-by-light to Google Glass? What do I have to invest? What is the benefit? What are my cost savings? That doesn't make is it economically reasonable to make an investment? If you have to start a new warehouse, then you can just jump indirectly possibly into Google Glass. Now the question is, how many new warehouses are open at the moment? Yeah? Yes, we do have many, but it just will take some time. So the limitation of why we sometimes don't see new technology is just an economic decision. So you as a company cannot just make an investment for the reason for just having the latest technology available, but you at the end of the day must earn money with it. And if that doesn't make sense, you cannot make the investment into the latest technology available. This is, by the way, why we see still a 747 flying around. Yeah, it's certainly not the most modern aircraft, but it still earns money. So you must, it's a kind of economic decision. When we talk about artificial intelligence, I think the limitation is the full understanding of how it adds value. So if you would ask me, would I fully understand AI in the context of logistics, then I think my honest answer would be no, I don't understand that. So we're coming back to a business case. Let's assume you would be the CEO of Kuehne, and I come to you and say, I need $100,000 because I need to purchase a truck. Over the next 3 years, this is what our return on investment will be. This is what I get as an income, or what I have as sales, and here's your return on investment. You're going to make 5%. Then you can make an objective decision and say, yeah, okay, I'm going to give you the $100,000. If we talk about AI, and I come to you and say, well, I need $100,000 for something intelligent, that is artificial, that is sort of, I'm not 100% certain what I do with it and how I benefit from it. You would say, as a CEO, I do not give you the money. So it is, I think it just takes time for us to fully understand of how we can make use of it. And unfortunately, logistics, service provider for logistics as a whole, has ever been cost-driven. Logistics is not necessarily a super brave discipline. So, in summary, drones, I think it would be a legal issue. What was the second one? Oh, Google Glass, I think it would be an economic decision. Do I earn money with it? And AI, I think, is a question of understanding and sometimes taking the risk of starting something new. But as logistics doesn't really earn a lot of money in terms of return on investment, yeah, so we talked about the 5%, the question is, can you risk, let's say, like Google, investing higher sums of money into a product which you possibly do not fully understand?
What you also need to understand, or what you need to consider, is that the drone technology for city deliveries, as Andre mentioned earlier, will not work today. That's going to take a long, long time because of legal implications and weight restrictions and what have you. But drone technology can very well be used today, in the very, very near future, when you're looking at warehousing and inventory control, for example. Imagine you have a 10 or 12 meter high warehouse where you have 15,000 pallet places. Right? These go up to 10 meters. And you need to make an inventory control. You can do inventory control, of course, automatically, but still you will have to do a physical check. Right? You can use the drone with the camera capability to fly around the warehouse and do this physical inventory for you. You don't have to send a human being up there with the possibility of him or her falling down. Right? So you use the technology in a restricted area for you to support your business case. Then you don't have legal implications because it's within your own area and it's secluded. You don't have humans running around under the drone. So nothing can fall on your head. In terms of AI, artificial intelligence, you will also have to look at who is making use of this or who is planning to make use of this. Now, when we made our investigation last year, we figured out, yes, artificial intelligence is of interest to companies. 4 or 5% will make use in the future of artificial intelligence. But you need to also look at who is looking at artificial intelligence. That's people like Alibaba, that's people like Amazon, that's people like Google, and these other guys. So they are looking at artificial intelligence to help them support their logistics in anticipation in anticipating warehouse deliveries, in anticipating maintenance for example, forklift drivers and forklifts and things like that. So it's a question of where you want to put AI into and what do you expect to get out of it. At the end of the day, it's a question of dollars and cents. How much money do you have to cough up to get a return? And how long do you need to wait to get a return on your investment? Is this viable? Yes or no? If the answer to that question is no, don't do it. If you have too much money, give it to me, please. I'll give you my bank account number. You don't have to go into AI. Okay?
Thank you for the question. Thank you. We're getting closer at the end of the session. But before that, we have a short action in cooperation with Binus with Econia, and will be given by Ms. Wulandari and Ms. Please invite them to come